I just thought I would jump on real quick and see who showed up. See who hopped online with me. um, so if somebody else is out there, I'm going to hang out here live for just a few minutes to surprise anybody who shows up. Hi, Becky Duncan. How are you? I just jumped on because I thought it'd be fun to see what would happen if I just turned on my camera and started talking like I used to do in the old days. Where are you located, Becky? Jonathan Davis. I love that name. Well, I decided to just jump on, Jonathan. I just think it's kind of fun. Where in Virginia are you from? I know that area fairly well. I have relatives in that area. Um, hey, Ramona, how are you? I'm just jumping on out of complete boredom. I thought I'd turn on my camera and see what happened. And some people are obviously out there. If you guys have any questions while we're here, just go feel free. Hi, Sarah. How are you? I have nothing planned for this live stream. So if you're looking for me to do something in particular, I literally am here just to see who would hop on and maybe answer some questions and talk to some people and see how you guys are all doing. So I have nothing planned for this. So Roanoke, okay, all right. Oh, Becky, I'm sure I probably did. I'm doing 4 12-hour days a week now of reading. So trying to remember anybody's name at this point is a long a hard thing for me to do. Lord Wootsy, hello, Lord Wootsy. How are you? So I just wanted, like I said, I just wanted to jump on and just see who was out there, see if anybody wanted to jump on and play. If you haven't, hi Tony, how are you? If you have any questions that you want me to talk about, I'll just talk about it. Just let me know. Um, I had some time this evening, so I thought I would just jump on. Roanoke, Virginia. My nephew and his wife and kids live down near Virginia Beach area, and I'm originally from Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, over on Delmarva. So I grew up in Rehoboth, which is a beach resort, but now I live in chilly Ohio. my my Thanksgiving was wonderful. I actually usually have my friends over. My good friend Holly, especially, you guys may know her from some of my other live streams and videos, Holly Matson. I had her over every other year, but this year we decided to not get out of our bathrobes. So we each stayed home, and my son, of course, was off with his mother's side of the family. Um, but I didn't get out of my bathrobe all day. I cooked myself a nice Thanksgiving meal. I watched Christmas movies, which I'm a big proponent of. I love Christmas movies. And so all day long was just me lounging around in a bathrobe, which was the best Thanksgiving ever. Oh, you're originally from Columbus, Ohio. See, I ended up in Ohio when my wife and I split, and she took my son to Ohio. So I came to Ohio because I wouldn't be away from my son. But my goal within the next couple of years is to be living back on Delmarva, back in Rehoboth Beach. It's the place where I thoroughly feel my best. I breathing in that salt air and experiencing the East Coast. That's kind of where I love. Now that my son's off at college, it makes it much easier to do that kind of thing. I've got 15 of us on here. Well, hello, everybody who hasn't said hello. So hello to everybody else. So Jonathan Davis, my mom specifically named me John Davis because of the fact that I asked her one time. I said, "Mom, why did you name me John?" And she literally could not answer the question. Could not answer the question. She said, "I have no idea." And now my mom knew all about my past life stuff, so to her it was kind of strange. But when I asked my mom why she became so Catholic, her her response was that she had her first out of body experience during a mass, and by having it out at a mass, to her it was a big religious experience. And as she got older, it got to the point where we actually could have really deep conversations about spirituality, and it was just a lovely. The later part of her life was just so lovely because she was so open and free to talk about what she believed, and was open to hearing other people's beliefs and adapting as well. Hello, Patty Sheffield. Happy holidays to you as well, or happy hollandaise. That's my saucy comment. You were born in Norfolk, Virginia, but I live in California. Oh, nice. What part of California, Sarah? Yeah. Norfolk, Virginia is interesting. I remember when I was a kid, one of my favorite things was crossing the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel there. And we were driving to Florida or something. We'd go through the Bay Area. Nice. So you guys have any kind of questions or topics you'd like me to discuss on this impromptu live session here? I have a question. What do you feel about shamans and their healings? That's a great question. Shamans and healings. I think that shamans are much like any other healer per se, in that if they give people something to put faith in, something to put belief in, and I believe all healing comes from belief of the person who is receiving the healing. But oftentimes, people who feel compelled to go into healing work will become, shamans or healers per se. But and I think it's a noble profession, a noble way to go. But I think that the realization is that all healing itself comes from the person taking their faith. Even Jeshua said, "It is your faith that heals you," and and I have a distinct memory, and I've mentioned this in videos, about the town of Beth Shean, which was near Nazareth, where no healings could happen in the city. And the reason no healings could happen is because they knew Jeshua as the son of Joseph the carpenter, one of their local guys. And so they couldn't believe healings could happen through him. But what would happen is, John and James would go into the city, find the people who did believe, and bring them out to the country on the outskirts of town to Jeshua. And that leap of faith was part of their belief process of getting healed. I think it's, like I said, shamans. When I was in South America, Lake Titicaca in Peru, I went to a shamanic ritual, and it was very, interestingly enough, dogmatic, and all the specific ceremonies and things they had to do. And some people were having some very big experiences. I did not have a very big experience there because I was just looking at all the stuff, and I was like, most of the experiences these people were having were things that I had already had naturally. And I think that it's really a process of belief, pretty much everything. Let me jump back over to the questions here. Hello from Calgary, Alberta. I have a very good friend up there, that area. And I actually did a workshop. I taught at a workshop at Banff up there. Conversation is moving pretty good, isn't it? Yes. Any tips on how we can live lovingly as leaders in office environment? Jonathan, this is a very great question. I have a man who wants me to help him write a book about this exact topic right now. Any tips on how we can live lovingly as leaders in office environment while still meeting business needs. I'm on my lunch break, manage a team of 15 customer service agents in Medicare insurance. This is a great question. And I used to direct Renaissance festivals and at any given time might have up to 1,200 employees around me. Number one, you have to realize is that my father used to say, and you're going to pardon my French, I'm going to say a cuss word. My father used to say that one oh shit wipes out 1,000 attaboys. But my father forgot the fact that you had to give the 1,000 attaboys. Positive reinforcement will always create more productivity. And so when you see them doing something good, no matter how small, you have to give them the positive reinforcement for the good things. And when you finally say something that is not a positive reinforcement, it has more weight, carries more effect. So you give 1,000 positives, and then the one thing to do is negative, rather than blowing up, say, well, this isn't the way it really should work, right? In a leadership environment, you have to realize that as a leader, you have to lead from beside, not on top of. And most people think of themselves as in a leadership position as being above, as a hierarchy. But in reality, the leaders who get the most done are the ones who are right there in the ranks with them in some form. Now, sometimes in business, you can't be that person who is right there beside them the whole time. But you can get them to understand that you know where they are, and walk by their desk and see them underwater with leads, and you can say, hey, can I help you? Can I take some of that off of you? And giving them some positive reinforcement in that way. Can we address this and shift it or whatever? I don't know how your business works, but really it comes down to a leadership, and it's just the way Jeshua taught too. There's not a hierarchy. There's, just because, okay, imagine this, two people leaving on a trip for the same destination. One person leaves 2 hours before the others. Has the one person who left 2 hours before the others, is he better than the people who haven't left yet? Or does he just have more information that he needs to share to the people coming up behind him? That's really what leadership is. It's having more information and sharing what needs to be done and how the things need to happen. And Jeshua didn't believe in hierarchies at all. When I directed Renaissance festivals, I modeled a man that I was a director for me, and he was always so kind, always so considerate. He never gave you a negative word, but he just said, "Well, we don't do it that way." He would put it off that way. But if that man had asked us 10 minutes before the gates opened to dig a 100-foot trench in the next 10 minutes, we'd have gotten it done, because he did support us, he did empower us, and by supporting and empowering, we would do anything for him, and our productivity would raise. And so it really comes down to the idea of you love them by meeting them where they are, and reinforcing the things that they're doing right, so that they want more of that reinforcement. I hope that answers your question, Jonathan. Where am I literally just going to do? Hey, Jenny, how are you? Hi, from Ohio. Hello, Tyler. Where in Ohio are you? I'm in Akron. People who speak in tongues. I did a video on this, speaking in tongues. And it's interesting. The people who speak in tongues are never the people who don't have it in their belief system that they speak in tongues. It's always the very specific groups that speak in tongues. And it's because their belief has been set up that they speak in tongues, and so they speak in tongues. Now, 9 times out of 10, when they tell you they're speaking in tongues, you can't understand a thing they're saying, because it's usually gibberish. And so it really comes down to what do you believe? And I really, truly believe that all healing techniques, all healing modalities work if you believe them. So Reiki works because people believe it, and medicines also work because people believe them. And I really do believe it all comes down to belief. And I think that people who speak in tongues, it's the same thing. They believe in that, and so they get that answer. Aliens. Now here, this is a great topic. Aliens. So, is God limited to Earth? Is the source, is consciousness limited to Earth? I think that all things are possible. I think that all consciousness is possible. I think that, the theory of the Big Bang Theory. They're like, well, there must have been a massive explosion. Now, if you think about this for a second, was there a massive explosion, or is our belief just broadening? Are we thinking further out? And the consciousness within the source is literally unlimited to just the Earth planet. I absolutely believe that there could be aliens, and I absolutely believe that the belief in aliens allows the consciousness to be even more affected here. And what's really interesting with all the stuff that's going on with the government right now, releasing videos of UFOs and stuff like that, it really is interesting to me because, the more they put it into the mass consciousness, the more we'll be open to seeing it. There's a famous story, Native Americans on the seashore as tall ships were arriving in the country, and they couldn't see them, and they were like, oh, they couldn't see them. Then they started seeing something, and they couldn't figure out what it was, but half the people, according to the stories, still couldn't see them, and it wasn't until they were right on top of them that they actually saw them, and so their belief system was masking things from them. Oftentimes we look at clouds and we see turtles and fish and all kinds of things in the clouds. My question is are those things all there? Are all the possibilities all there? So I had an experience after my Kundalini rising many years ago where I stopped seeing the world in the way I normally used to. Like when I look at the gray wall across from me over there, it doesn't look like gray to me. It looks like billions and trillions of dots of all different colors in motion. So my eyes see the world around me is nothing but this pool of energy in motion. And there was one time I was doing a healing session. Yes, I did healing sessions years ago. And the woman asked, I said, what would you like out of this session? She says, I'd like to see the other side. And I said, okay. So let's ask. Let's ask and put faith in the fact that you're going to see the other side. So we thank you, God, for the vision of the other side that I am receiving. Amen. And she put her faith in it. And I sat there with pure loving intention, because the healer's job really is to be pure love. And as the Bible says, no fear can exist in pure love. So by being the vessel of pure love, then they put their intention. And then when two or more are gathered, there, so I am, right? So she put the intention into it, put the prayer into it. And what happened next? Her eyes glossed over, and she slowly fell off the chair. And I caught her, and I lowered her to the ground. And her bladder and her bowels emptied into her pants. And I was freaking out. And I made sure she wasn't choking on her tongue, and I yelled for my assistant, Holly Matson at the time, to come out. She called 911, and I did this whole process of making sure she was there. And next thing the ambulance was pulling up, and next thing you know, she's sitting back up, and she's fine. And I said, what happened? She said, well, I said I wanted to see the other side, and as we finished, I started seeing all these dots and all the everything being nothing but energy and motion, and I felt like I could reach out and I could grab it, and then the more I reached into it, I just kind of blended into it, and then next thing I know, I was here lying on the ground. Right? She described exactly several of the experiences that I've had, and one of them is the idea of being able to reach out and grab it. I had an experience where I really felt like I could reach out and grab the ocean and pick it up one time. And it was like I could just see how, everybody in the world's trying to go to 5D right now. And in those experiences, it's like being in 2D. It's like you're realizing the world's an energetic painting around you of your belief. And when you can take that and start to realize that your belief is creative, you start to get the things in your life that you truly are asking for and believing in. The biggest problem most people have in life is that they stay in this present moment and they define their world by all of their past experience. And so they say, this is how the world is. And so they create more and more of the same. There's a famous line in the Bible that says, be born again. And in being born again, what's actually being said is, set down your past and start something new. To stand in your present moment, knowing that up to this moment it's been this way. But now you are doing something different. I am creating, I am enjoying, I am receiving, and changing the experience and the outcome. And when you change the experience and the outcome, what happens is it starts coming into your experience. And my favorite way of creating is to say, I am receiving, using the word receiving. Because I have a hard time personally, and that is an interesting belief in itself, that I have a hard time, because belief in the hard time will give you a hard time as well. So that's something that I do work through. But by saying I'm receiving, I can believe that it's coming into my experience easily and transitioning in, and that's how the experience comes about. So let me jump back over to the comments over here. I hope that answered that question. Have you ever talked about the resurrection? If you witnessed or was resurrection within each disciple? Great question, Sherry. I have talked about the resurrection because I have one memory from the past life of seeing him after the crucifixion, and it's interesting because I have very distinct memories of the crucifixion itself, and it wipes me out. Right? It's like horrible. I have a memory of carrying him with two other men to the tomb. The next memory I have of him is not the next day where everybody said, they came to the tomb and he was gone. I don't have that memory. But what memory I do have is a long time later being in Galilee and fishing. And I think this is the story that's in the Bible of Peter and John on the boat fishing, and Joshua called from shore and said, cast your net to the side. I think this is where this story comes from. But we saw, in the memory, what I have is him on shore calling to us, Peter jumping overboard, Peter jumping off the boat, me bringing the boat in, and then running up to him and dropping on my face in front of him and having that experience of being just in awe that he was there. And I looked up at him and he was laughing at me because he thought it was really kind of ridiculous that I fell on my face in front of him. He thought it was just kind of funny. And my understanding of the resurrection itself is something that in Hinduism they talk about on a regular basis. They always talk about yogis who can levitate, yogis who can do these various things. And for me, there's the stories that sound most credible about resurrection are the yogis who have learned to project their consciousness and manifest their bodies. So, in other words, they would come to a raging river, and rather than trying to wade through the raging river, they would project their consciousness to the other side of the river, manifest their body around their consciousness, and keep walking. I have not been able to do this, and I would love to be able to do this, and maybe someday I will be able to do this, and maybe someday we'll all be able to do this. But to me, that's a perfect example. If you're in a traumatic situation and you're passing, you demanifest the body and remanifest it elsewhere, healthy. And I think that's how healing works and everything else works. So for me, it's a very, very spiritually credible meaning of resurrection. I have a very good friend who passed away a couple of years ago who was a practicing Hindu, and he would take friends to India to meet his guru. And he took a friend with him on this one trip, and his friend was not really into it, but was after a couple of weeks of being there, was really bored, and he really wanted his guitar. And my friend tells me this story. He says, John, he says, I know this sounds incredible. He says, but I witnessed this. But I did not witness it, but he did. Right? He said, I witnessed it. So he said, the guru came up to him and said, what's the matter? And he says, I'm bored. He said, well, What would make you not bored? He said, well, I wish I had my guitar. I could play some music. And the guru said, where's the guitar? He says, it's in my apartment in San Francisco. And the guru says, okay. And he walks away. And my friend swore, he's gone now, but swore that an hour later the guru handed him his guitar. And he said that he literally had brought the man's guitar to India in an hour and a half. And my friend talked to the guru. He says, I just went and got it because he had need. So it was that simple for the guru. To me, it's a fascinating concept. And it is things that I still explore. I'm constantly striving to follow my own consciousness and find out what it all means. And to me, that story makes sense to me. So I hope that explains the concept of resurrection and my only experience with it, unfortunately. Aliens, real tongues, because they believe in what they do. Do I have any favorite authors reading material? Well, as you guys know, I interviewed Neil Donald Walsh. I really enjoy his stuff. The first book that I ever read, and it's a very interesting book because some people will say it's terribly written or whatever. I said if you're reviewing the way it's written, then you're missing the point. And it was just a very simple little fun adventure book called The Celestine Prophecy. It was a very eye-opening book for me on a lot of terms. As far as other reading that I do, I was a big Wayne Dyer fan for a really long time. And I do have a reading list on Amazon of books that I've enjoyed over the time. Also, I do dive a lot into ancient texts and Gnostic texts, so I'm very much into that sort of stuff. And like the Vakanamrut, which is the answers of Swaminarayan. So I dive into a lot of that too because I like to find the correlations of thought in all of them because I think above any one religion, I think God is too big to be encompassed by any school of thought. And I think you can find love and God in all of them. But I think you can, as you go and you correlate and you start to find these common truths or universal truths that are more easy to follow. The number one universal truth is that our thoughts are creative. You know, Buddha said, what you think you become, you create your world. And Krishna said, you are the culmination of your thought. And Jeshua said, as a man thinketh, so is he. And Shakespeare said, I think, there is nothing good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. So the concept of thought being creative is found in all the texts, everywhere. And so it's a matter of what are you thinking? And are you thinking positive or negative? I just did a video that's coming out tomorrow about judgmental people and how if you're judgmental, you can't be happy because the judgment themselves is you trying to control your experience and trying to control others. To put a brief capper on it, to give you a brief idea of what I was talking about, somebody made a comment about how she hated the fact that I took a drink from my coffee in my videos. She started off, good grief, thumbs down. You know, why do you have to drink that coffee? And it made me laugh out loud because the reason it made me laugh out loud is because why does my taking a drink of my coffee in any way, shape, or form harm her or bother her? It doesn't. It was just a judgment. It was just something for her to complain about. And so to me, it really comes down to, you know, are you enjoying your life? Because I am. I'm enjoying my cup of coffee. I'm enjoying my making a video and laughing with you guys and joking. And I feel like the coffee times are literally coffee time with my friends. So to me, I enjoy them. And, you know, so my life is being lived enjoyably. And this person's life was being lived in judgment and fear. And so the thought of having to judge or having to have those fears, she saw that coffee as a negative because that's what her thoughts were creating in her world. If that makes any sense at all. I think real too. I know some people who are honestly not nice, as in probably would be persecuted or prosecuted, is what you said there, yet they still speak in tongues. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things in the world that are labels that we place upon ourselves, and so someone who is devoutly Christian can put a label on others because of the fact of their Christianity. For instance, how Christianity views homosexuality. My view is that love in any form is never wrong. Theirs is against the laws of our religion, and so that to me is abhorrent because it's harmful to people who are loving. Buckeye to Columbus. There you go. Got the Ohio people in the house tonight. Okay. What part of Florida, Andy? I spent a lot of time in Florida. And yes, Jeshua had a great sense of humor. And people are constantly asking me what jokes he would have told. But jokes are more of a modern sort of thing. It was more of an anecdotal thing. Or he would tease people about things. But the modern form of a joke with a punchline wasn't really a thing that I remember back then. Joseph. This is the first time I've gone live in a long time, and I just jumped on out of boredom, and it's kind of fun. I'm having a good time. Thank you guys for all showing up. Ramona, I think that's interesting. I'm not a believer in fate or destined futures, so I think that the idea of setting a timeline is interesting, but I don't buy it. I even amazingly gifted people like Kim Carey are reading the potential of the moment, and anything can change, and she would be the first to tell you that. It doesn't fit with what I believe. Becky, I'm with you. I'm really excited to see Sasquatch in the live. I think that'll be fun. I believe in aliens, so they must be real. Exactly. Correct. Mental state, vibrational frequency. Mental state, vibrational frequency. Is this the topic, I'm assuming? So, mental state, vibrational frequency. Vibrational frequency is a construct of trying to explain the feeling. So people say, raise your vibration, lower your vibration. That's low energy. That's low vibration. It's a matter of, is it fearful or is it loving? I think it's more of a sliding scale than vibrational levels. And I really think it is imagine you're in a room that's made of pure love. And in that room right beside you is a fog machine. And you have your hand on the knob and you can crank that fog machine up. And the fog is your fear. And you can crank it all up and not see the love, or you can crank it way down and you can see the love completely. But what's happening in humanity right now is people their level of consciousness is raising, and what's actually happening is they're starting to realize that their hand is on the knob. And they're coming to the point where they realize they can control their fears and their anxieties. Because fear is the big leveler, right? But what is fear? Fear is negatively focused uncertainty. Because if you were focused positively, you wouldn't be afraid, right? So fear is an emotional reaction to a future event that may or may not happen with you focused on a negative outcome. And that being said, by focusing on the negative outcome, you're going to see a negative outcome because that's your belief. That's why negative people see a negative world. And so, what's happening right now is that people's fears are lowering. In Sufism, and this is where the word the veil comes from. In Sufism, they believe God is on one side of a veil, and we're on the other side of the veil, and our life is the struggle against the veil, and the veil is our fear. what's happening is the veil is getting thinner, and there's a blending back and forth. And I really truly believe that we are at a cusp of a massive shift in humanity. And I have seen the difference from 20 years ago to now, because when I was speaking before and then I left doing spiritual work and came back, I can see the dramatic difference in people who are now empowering themselves, whereas back then they were really much more shallow and superficial. Now they're much more into believing and receiving and creating and manifesting a law of attraction, all these things. But it really comes down to simply believing and receiving and taking the power back into yourselves. One of the memories I do have from regression is the line from Jeshua saying, when you seek a path will be laid before you, but until you turn the path back to yourself, you never find the doorway. I think people are turning the path back to themselves. And I think the second coming is not them coming to us, but us going to them, basically, if that makes any sense. So, do I meet people now that I remember from the Joshua days? Well, first thing I will say this is I do not validate lives, because I have met easily 30 people who believe they're Mary Magdalene. And I've met multiple Pauls and multiple Peters, one or two Ringos. No, I'm kidding. That was a joke. The idea of do I recognize people? I have had experiences where I have absolutely recognized somebody, and usually it's a feeling more than anything else. But one specific time, I had a man walk into a room, and I looked at him, and I remembered him from my regression as Peter, and I saw him, and my rule was I never validate, I never say anything, and so he came in the room, and I turned to my friend. And I said, I'm going to tell you this, just so you know that I'm thinking this. I believe that's Peter. And the man and his wife came up, and we're talking. And in the conversation, I just kind of threw the word Peter in there just to see if there was a reaction. And nothing really, right? And then about a week or so later, I got an email from the wife, his wife. She says, we want to let you know we heard you say Peter. And I was like, oh. She says, yeah. And she said, yeah, I think that I was Peter. So the wife thought she was Peter. Now, do I believe the soul could have split? I don't believe in necessarily the concept of soul splitting. I believe in the oneness of God. So could they both have been some aspect of Peter? Sure. So I as far as meeting people in this life who I feel that connection to, it's happened several times. I hope that answers the question. Hello, Andrew. Let's see, you are quite welcome, Sherry. Illinois. Yeah, Lizette. I like that name, Lizette Torres. Yeah, this was a surprise live. I just kind of did it for the fun of it. I don't follow any Judaic rituals or ceremonies. Tampa, Florida. How did you fare during the hurricane? I know there's still a lot of damage down in that neck of the woods. Hello, Joe. Oh. And Becky. This was a complete surprise. I decided to just jump on. I was sitting in my studio here, which you guys. I want to show you something here. I'm sitting in my studio here, and I'll give you guys a little surprise. Poof, poof. I love playing around with my green screen. I just decided to jump on because I thought it'd be fun, and it's proving to be fun. So, how often I'm finding it hard to meditate. There are many books out there that teach you how to do it, but it's not working for me. I'm so glad you asked this because I don't meditate. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? I don't meditate. I did all the practices. I did mantras. I did breathing. I did guided. I did walking meditations. I did all kinds of meditations. And I discovered one thing. All of them lead you to one specific moment. It's the moment where you go and exhale and you relax. So do I meditate? Technically, people would say I meditate. What I do is I sit in love. I get up in the morning and I go into my room that I have set aside for that, and I just feel that complete relaxation. And then I focus on the feeling of being completely unencumbered by the world. And I have had all of the big experiences that everyone talks about in meditation. And my world smooths out just because I sit in that feeling. And I do that twice a day now. And the morning one's usually about 40 minutes, but in the evening one's sometimes not as long. But I don't really clock it to say it has to be a certain amount of time. But sitting in love, meditation is a word that has gotten so overused that it's hard to know what's right or what's wrong. And people will argue with you that you're doing meditation wrong. And I personally subscribe to the Dalai Lama's line where he said the best meditation is sleep, right? Because it's that relaxed state. Now, I want you to think about something. As your day goes on, you get tired, and the closer you get to bedtime, you start to yawn. What is yawning? It's a complete exhale. It's a release. And what happens next? You fall asleep because you're dropping into the natural state. You're going to drop in there naturally anyway. Being here in the physical plane is like scuba diving. We come down here, and every 16 hours we have to go back up for air. And so while being here in this plane, you're experiencing all of the separation from that source, separation from the oxygen, right? And what happens is at night you go back to it. And then you come back into the physical world and you experience, you wake up and you're like groggy. You got to get your coffee and you got to do all your stuff. And and you go back into those fears and the anxieties and the responsibilities of the physical world. And at night you go back home. And so it really comes down to, as far as meditation is concerned, don't beat yourself up because you can't meditate. Most people can't. And here's the big secret. When you're sitting down and you're going to sit in love, this is what's going to happen. You're going to go, and a thought's going to pop in your head. It's going to say, did you pay your bills? And you're going to go, oh, why am I thinking? Quiet my mind. Did you turn the stove off? And after the third or fourth time, you're going to say, I can't do this. The people who get really good at it are the ones who go through that exact same process and just keep going back until the quiet times in between last longer. That's all it is. And if you can come to the place, just keep going and knowing that it's getting us 2 seconds longer, a minute longer, 5 minutes longer. What happens is over the course of time, next thing you know, you're going to be going, oh, it took me 30 minutes before that thought came. Well, that was 30 minutes of meditation. So think about it that way rather than thinking about how you have to do it. Just and relax. Do I have a board and a mic on my stream? Come on! Yes, I do. And I have a board over there. I have a booming voice, and so I like to adjust my tonality. Did Joshua keep the Sabbath? Great question. You know the story of the Samaritan woman at the well. Joshua was traveling on the Sabbath, which is against the Sabbath. When he met a Samaritan woman, he spoke to a woman who was not his wife, which would not have been acceptable at the time. He spoke to a Samaritan, they were at odds with the Jewish folks at that time. And he told her everything she ever did, which was basically performing a psychic ability, which was frowned upon in Christianity. And so, no, he did not necessarily keep the Sabbath. He did have those, like the Passover feast and stuff like that. We did celebrate that because he was surrounded by a bunch of Jewish men, but he didn't necessarily keep the Sabbath or the laws. And one of the things that's really imprinted in my memory is and I know that there's other things out there that will completely go against what I'm about to say. He was not an Essene, and the Essenes wanted him to become a Messiah, and he turned them down because he didn't believe in Messiahs. And to believe in the Messiah would mean that you would have to be a Jewish man, because it's the Messianic belief came from the Jewish tradition. He didn't believe in Messiahs because he believed in oneness of God, and the Father and I are one, and ye are gods, is what he said. So you're all one. So, yeah, it was very interesting. Where we go? Magic. I don't know what the answer. Thanks, Brent. I just was, like I said, just hopping on out of boredom. Meditation is being in the moment, and yeah, and see, everyone has their own take on it, and so for him, meditation is just being in the moment, and for me, I set apart a time in the day to just be without fear, and so you define your own meditation, and don't dictate to anybody else what they have to believe, or take any of the ones that don't work for you. It is a Audio-Technica AT2020 microphone and a Mackie Mackie mixing board. If that, I hope that answers your question. Good eye, John. I have to say that with an Aussie accent. I belong to the Churches of Christ, and we follow the New Testament pattern for Christianity. We follow the first church Christ died from. Was you there? Was I there when Jesus took his last breath? There's a lot in this statement. I am not a Christian, and I just want to be very clear up front. I don't consider myself a Christian because the word Christ means anointed one, and I don't believe in a Messiah. And so I don't follow the Christianity of my friend Jeshua, which is not that he taught Christianity. He didn't. The Christianization of my friend Jeshua is more. But I have memories of being there at the cross and carrying him to the tomb. And if you hear my regression, you would get to hear me going through that. There's actually a video on my channel said 2 moments from my regression. If you search that on my channel, you'll hear me witnessing the crucifixion. Where am I going to the next? Becky, it's great, and it's I believe Jeshua and Buddha and all of the people that are within the oneness have the ability to come and visit us. And you look at the video on my channel that says I took a picture of Jeshua, a picture of Jesus. That's that showed up in a picture of a door I took in Norway. Oh, you're quite welcome, Bridget. His parents were Nazarene, and they like the Qumran encampments and all that. They wanted him to be the Messiah. Now, do I know whether they actually did anything with the Essenes? I have no memory of their life. My memories with Jeshua started the moment I met him. I don't have anything before that, so I don't know whether the reason why he had and he did have a struggle with the Essenes. He avoided them because there was a conflict, and so he had to have known who they were. And so I don't know whether it was, but they were trying to make him a Messiah, and he wouldn't do it. And the reason they wanted to make him a Messiah is so that he would become a king and raise an army. And when you look historically, the first armed attack against Rome was led by John the Essene. So Jeshua did not believe in that. in that messianic sort of principle. Kelly, I get asked that question a lot. Do I think Jeshua reincarnated? I don't know why he would. There's a line in the Bible that this sweater is very comfortable, by the way. Duluth Trading Company. Thank you, Rick. I don't know why he would reincarnate, because there's a line in the Bible that he says before he dies. I think it was during the Last Supper. He says, "I go so the Holy Spirit will descend upon you." Right? But I want you to think about this. Your Holy Spirit, your soul, is you. Is your authentic self without your fears. The Trinity is the God consciousness. The Son is the physical world consciousness. And the Holy Spirit, or higher self consciousness, is you and your complete consciousness, conscious of your divinity with God, and conscious of the physical world, and the concept of no fear. And so Jeshua was leaving for several reasons, but by taking himself out of the picture, the authorities would think that the movement would die. But on top of that, the other element of that is, by taking himself out of the picture, it kind of forced people to start to look within themselves and start to turn to themselves, and having the Holy Spirit, or their higher self, descend upon them, becoming more in their own divine self. And so the idea of him reincarnating again, if he did, which is totally possible, I guess, if he did, I don't think he would reveal himself, because it would take away from everything that he was teaching. Do you, as John of New, feel any energy, personality difference from you as John of Old? John of Old was a very, how do I say this? So he met Jeshua, and from that moment on, everything was about being with Jeshua and serving Jeshua. And I mean everything. He never got married. He never had kids. And not because of a religious belief. It wasn't celibacy for the sake of a religious belief. He was on this mission because he had this experience with Jeshua. So he was much more devout. I've been divorced 3 times, so there's definitely a difference there. Right? I will say, however, coming back to this work now, I feel much closer to John of Old than ever in my life. Because right now I am, as I said, 3 times divorced, but a single man. I have no desire to get married again, or I have no inkling of or desire to be with another partner. And it's not out of fear. It's out of I feel so compelled to do the work that I'm doing right now, and so I feel sort of a kinship with John of Old. But I am John of New, and that is, I'm glad you asked that question that way, because it is John of New, not John of Old. And people will oftentimes call me John the Beloved, and I say, no, John Davis, right? How would anybody know what day is the 7th day? That's all religious. And you live to believe Source created the all, literally 7 days. Well, and there's so many different things I could say about this, but one of them is we don't live in 2022. Bible says he was born a minimum of 6 years before that, because he was born in the reign of a different emperor, and the emperor died 6 years before. He died, 6 years before that. So the year we live in is wrong. So who would know anything? And everything you're asking, everything you're commenting on, is based in those ancient myths and texts that have some truth in them and a lot of flawed things. And the things that are truthful, in my opinion, my personal opinion, my belief, the loving things are probably pretty truthful. And the harmful, or the things that are laws in the physical world, are probably of man, in my opinion. And growth is in the dirt. I'm gonna this comment. The Matthew said, okay. So let's talk about Matthew first. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then of course the letters from Paul. But Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John. Okay. Matthew, Mark, and Luke are believed by theologians to come from one single source. They're not believed to be attributed to the actual disciples, according to theologians and Bible scholars. They believe they come from some single source, which they don't know the source is. There's a theory called the Q theory, which is another, not the Q that we talk about nowadays, different Q, or the Star Trek Q either. But so when I read the Bible, I do a lot of skimming now. I've read the Bible multiple times, but I don't find a lot of truth in it. I find very, very little truth in it. God is love. God sent 2 bears to kill 42 children because they made fun of a bald man. Doesn't sound like love to me. God turned Lot's wife into a pillar of salt simply for looking backwards. Doesn't sound like love to me. So there's a lot of falsehood and fallacy and manipulation and laws and rules, and this one especially did not come to change the laws, but not to add to or delete, but to fulfill them. To fulfill them, this is, and I can almost guarantee, this was probably written by a group like the Essenes, because they were saying he was the Messiah, and he did not believe in the Messiah. And so for me, I don't believe it. So I don't believe it's reality. But that's, I'm not asking you to believe anything I believe. Spirituality is a personal journey. You must find your own belief. John Johnson, you said Christ was the last incarnation. He was here several times before, no reason whatsoever to come back now. I respect their beliefs. I don't think anyone knows whether that was the last incarnation. And I think the whole statement sets Jeshua apart, because I'm assuming your word Christ is referring to Jeshua, but because Christ just means the Messiah, the anointed one. So I totally get that. I totally get what you're saying, and I respect your beliefs. I respect all your beliefs, but I don't judge you in any way, shape, or form for any of your beliefs. Was Jeshua enlightened from birth, or did he have a mortal awakening? What's interesting? Like I said, I don't have memories of him as a child. I only have memories from the moment I met him on that beach. So I don't know what he was like as a child. I do know we believe that Joseph had been his father, but Joseph was dead by the time I met him, and that his mother was with him the whole time. And John Johnson, once again, I think you're quoting Dolores Cannon, and I don't think anybody can know. I don't think anybody can know. Did Jeshua mention unlocking the third eye? Jeshua believed in love and all of the modalities and all of that stuff that we talk about now, third eyes, Reiki, all of those things. That wasn't his exact teaching was it's all far simpler than you're making it out to be. In fact, in my regression, I literally say it's so simple you have a hard time comprehending it. And when I say that, think about this: you are already the creator of your experience. Negative people see a negative world because they're creating that experience. Positive people see a positive world because they're creating that experience. The problem most people have is Christianity and Judaism and Islam and all the religions of the world have made you believe in a hierarchy, and there isn't one. You are already creating. You are already creating an experience, and you can create from limitation. I mean, I think one of the biggest, most detrimental things in the world is the belief that growth is created through struggle. Why not create easily? And you can do it. I have complete faith in that. You are quite welcome, Ramona. Trying to go back and see what I've missed. Yeah, the John of Peniel book is very interesting. Children of the Law of One and the Lost Teachings of Atlantis. It's all very interesting, but I think anytime you add the word law into something, that you're framing it in a physical world construct, and I think that's for me personally, it's all far simpler. It's all far simpler. Do I believe there's really a antichrist type leader? Nope, I don't believe in an antichrist. This is everybody talks about the antichrist or the devil or demons, and the word Satan, when originally translated, meant temptation, and in the modern dictionary, it means accuser, and it didn't become the polarization of good and evil until Dante wrote his Inferno in the 1300s, and so the Middle Ages really did a lot of changes to the belief systems that are out there, and it created a huge issue with a lot of people. And to me, that the whole concept of an antichrist makes absolutely no sense to me. In fact, I believe the reason we're having all the turmoil in the world right now is not because an antichrist is coming to power, but because love is coming to power, and all the people who are afraid are losing their composure because they don't know what to do. I think that the world is becoming more and more loving. Padre Pio. I just did a video on Padre Pio just recently. Yeah, and he was a very devout man who had a lot of beliefs, and those beliefs manifested into stigmata. And the video I did about it was about Padre Pio's stigmata, and the argument, well, and not really an argument. The point that I made is, in my regression, the nails went through here, and Padre Pio's stigmata was here. Now, when they look at Roman crucifixions, they discovered that it went through the wrist because there's a joint there that they can hook a nail through that will not slip out. If you put it in the hand, it would tear out. It would have torn out under the weight of the hanging of the body. And my memory had nailed through the ankles from the side into the side of the cross, as opposed to on a little platform or with the knees bent, nailed straight in through both feet. I had two nails, one from each side. And the only archaeological evidence they have of a Roman crucifixion is a nail going sideways through an ankle bone. So Padre Pio, I believe, once again, just like speaking in tongues, because that was his belief, he had those experiences. Once again, also Becky, on that Padre Pio thing, that's that idea of prophecy. I don't believe in a fate or a destiny, so I don't believe there's anything out there that is destined to happen. John Johnson, I'm assuming you're saying, yes, Jeshua was the Christ. I respect your beliefs. I just don't believe he was the Messiah, because I don't believe in a Messiah. So I'd be interested to know what you think the fulfill the laws are, because the whole thing about Jeshua, well, the whole thing about the Messiah is the fact that he is coming back, he is coming to save, and he is coming. Just to say he is coming is a prophecy. It's jumping ahead here. I completely agree. I believe that's why John Johnson, the deal is all the truth we have today are still only half truths due to the limited perception in this dimension. I think it's kind of overthought, but I think I agree with you that no one knows. So, do you want to live lovingly or do you want to live fearfully? I say live lovingly and let the rest take care of itself. I have no idea what the note means on that because I have no idea what it was. All part of the I am. Exactly right. And I do. When I met Jeshua, Jeshua was, obviously considered to be close to 30. I didn't necessarily know his age, but when I met his mother, this the question is, do I remember her as a young woman? I only remember that family and anything from that family from the moment I met Jeshua on the beach. So I wouldn't have known her at a young age anyway. Okay. I do not believe in baptism, and I have no memory of ever baptizing anybody when John of Old walked with Jeshua. I don't believe in a baptism. I don't believe in any dogmatic rituals at all. And people say, what do you mean? You have to have rituals. No, because they are the dogmas. Look up the word dogma. You'll see that it's the ceremonies and all the stuff. There's a lot of belief that you will get from people who will say they know about this and they know it was happening then, and even when the herbs they brought to the tomb were healing herbs, not embalming herbs. We don't really know, and it's kind of to claim things are absolute fact when we don't know. I just don't think that's helpful, really. Hello, Donna Davison. How are you? Demons. The word demon is from daemon, and daemon means lesser evil. And the idea of a lesser evil has to have you believing in an evil, first of all, and that is definitely a medieval polarity thought. The concepts of casting out demons is when I've done healing work, I found people who came in who were very deep into some very serious stuff, and it was a matter of being pure love and bringing them to a different faith. And people get mad and frustrated. It's like I started this conversation with the lady who, was mocking me for drinking my cup of coffee, and I would call that her demon. Is that fear, the anxiety that she had to be right, that aggressiveness, and so by bringing that out, you have the chance to clear those things up. Growth is in the dirt. I respect your beliefs. I respect your beliefs. I don't believe the New Testament is accurate either. So I mean, I believe there are. Let me put it this way: healing herbs. As I said earlier on in this live stream, all healing comes from belief. And so the healing herbs are a physical world construct that people put belief in. And so to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Their dog, you are correct, Becky. My mom had her master's degree in liturgy in the Catholic Church, and she was head of liturgical doctrine at our church. Debbie, you're thinking about John the Baptist, and my memory is not of John the Baptist. It is of John Johannes ben Zebedee, who's just John the Beloved. The Baptist came before Joshua. You are quite welcome. Growth is in the dirt. Missed the live chat. Yeah, I was just blowing some time until I jump on. Well, how old are you now, John? I'm 19. No, I'm kidding. Do you have a family? I am now 58 years old. My son, who I've told stories about when he was 5 and 6, is now 19 and 4 inches taller than me. And his name is Kynan, which means king in Welsh. Oh, you are quite welcome, Brittany. I'm very excited to be to put the. I enjoy putting the videos out, and I have gone down to one a day because I find that if I make 4 videos and that only covers 2 days, that I'm spending a lot of time making videos, and down to just one really helps me out. It makes me feel better. But every so often I'll make one and I'll jump it up in the queue just because of the fact that I want it to go out quicker, like the one that comes out tomorrow. I did a whole video on the Book of Revelations, and the Book of Revelations is a letter to the churches to warn of the oncoming persecution from Emperor Nero. And the reason it was written the way it was written is because the person who was traveling and carrying that document, if they were caught, they could literally deny that it was about Nero. And so one of the things that's really interesting is 666, when in the Jewish numerology, breaks down to Nero, or Nero breaks down to 666. And then they found another text of a different language, and the number wasn't 666. It was something like 363 or something like that. And in that language, it translated down to Nero. It was very interesting. So they truly, but the book of Revelations was written by John the Beloved, John of old, while imprisoned on Patmos. Which, you want to hear an interesting story about Patmos? When I was in Greece, I was trying to get to Patmos. I wanted to get there. And the day that I was supposed to go, a gigantic storm came up, and they wouldn't let any boats go over. And so I saw everything else in Greece and in Israel and Jordan, but I never made it all the way out to Patmos. Well, he's 19, Patty, he's 19 years old. You can't tell him anything right now. I'm learning that one the hard way, too. Yeah. You are quite welcome, Becky. Guys, this is fun. I'm enjoying this. Any more questions before I wind this up? Haven't done a live stream in a while. Yeah, we have to. I kind of like the spontaneity of this one, though. Just kind of jumping on and doing one without any plan. And but here's something else I want to say to you guys. I want to thank you guys, because when I say I respect everybody's belief, I do. It would be wrong of me to come on here and share my beliefs and judge anybody for theirs. It would be completely hypocritical of me to do that. And I think that what's most important to me about the YouTube channel and even my membership group is the fact that we don't judge. We listen to people's points of view and hear and pick and choose the things that are true to us, the things that feel right to us. You know, even the Bible says, in my Father's house there are many mansions. There are many ways to God, many ways to find love in your life. And it's a matter of you deciding what feels like love to you and living into that. So open up it. The book is still coming. I'm toiling away. You are. Oh, well, thank you. Let me jump back over, see what I'm missing here. Do a live stream once a week. I did a live stream once a week for a while, and it had gotten to be so much work because of the fact that I do 4 12-hour days of readings, and that is the only income that I have right now is the readings and the ad revenue from this channel. I'm being completely transparent with you. Ad revenue from this channel and from the membership group. And so I do time with the member, and I know I enjoy my time with the membership group. It's a beautiful, loving group of people. We all get on Zoom face to face with each other right now twice a week. So Thursday, Wednesday, and Sunday, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I also do 12 hours of readings. So Friday is my only day that I really get off to clean my house, do the things I need to do. And usually Saturday I like to spend it with my son. So adding one more thing to my schedule probably is not going to happen, just because it's just too much. Do you wonder if you've had any lives before you were John of old? I haven't really gone there, but I have had weird experiences in this life that seem to make sense that I had other lives, which I can go into another time. But I don't remember anything in between then and now, though. So who knows? Hello from Australia. Hello back to Australia. Thank you, John. How's your book? Yeah, because of the schedule I was just talking about, it's actually the book's taking longer than I had hoped it would, because of the fact that I'm doing so much stuff. Am I open to doing an open up and ask? Brittany, can you do me a favor? Can you either put that underneath a comment on a video, or send me an email to john@johnofnew.com with that suggestion? Because I'll probably lose it here, and I don't want to lose it, and I'm very open to that. This has been great. Hello, John. Hello, everyone. Hello, Marvita. Dragonfly, how are you? Beautiful words. Well, thank you all. Thank you. I don't know about his favorite color. Sorry. Oh yeah, we the readings to me are so joyful, because I the way the readings work is I open up an hour before and I write the person's name on a blank sheet of paper. Here's my clipboard right here, ready to go, and I just write their name, and then I do that meditation technique. I just take a big breath and relax, and then I just start writing down whatever pops into my head. And I've been so amazed by some of the things that comes out in those channel writings. And then like we dive in, and then after we dive into a conversation, it's like a redirect. It's a reboot. And then at the end, when I read it again, and it's amazing how the reboot, the channel writing sounds more clear at the end. It's really, I love doing them, but the 12-hour days are long days. No, he never talked about past lives in my memory. So, anyway. Well, guys, this has been lovely. I actually have not even eaten today because I woke up really late today. I woke up at 11 o'clock this morning. And so I haven't even, I had my cup of coffee, but I haven't eaten anything. So I'm going to go make myself some dinner. Thanks for joining me on this spontaneous little live stream. I may just spontaneously pop up again sometime. And if something changes and I can do them more frequently, I will. You guys have a lovely day, and understand you are loved in this world. I wouldn't do the things that I do if I didn't love you, because the things that I do are all about bringing love to the world, and you are the world. You are the children. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.